I've been hearing a lot of stuff in terms of defense. There's a lot of different thought processes going out there about what defense is, what is zone coverage and why can't you blitz this person, or this don't work against Patrick Mahomes. And I've been doing this thing for 20 some odd years, right? This blog is a teaching moment in order to understand a little better about the principles of zone coverage and some of the strengths of zone coverage, some of the weaknesses of zone coverage. So let's start off by why we are even talking about zone coverages to begin with. Against certain people and against certain teams, I'm not a fan of zone coverage. There's a time and place for zone coverage, but it is essential to mix zone coverage in every defense that you have. However, when you start overutilizing something and are unwilling to adapt to the environment around you, you then become entrenched in some sort of philosophy and ideology that is not going to be shapeable, bendable, or moldable to help your team win football games. I've seen way too many times that we're talking about different things and different concepts on Twitter in terms of zone coverage and why you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes and why he's going to kill you. I can see right now why there's not a lot of people who win championships, because there's a lot of people out there that really cower under pressure. There's a lot of people who are not mentally prepared to go where they need to go to do what they need to do to be champions. There's a lot of excuses about why you can't do this or why you shouldn't do this. People will tell you why you shouldn't do it, but be losing the whole time. They're the wisest person in the room, but still taking L. The only thing that matters is that the end of the game, did you get that win? And if you continually to doing the same things that you was doing before, you don't have any alternative or any downside to trying something different. Oh, Patrick Mahomes gonna kill you if you blitz. Says who? Oh, you can't draft a linebacker in the first round. Says who? Consensus is that you can't take that guy there. You can't buy that. You can't spend that money in free agency. See, that's the thing. Everybody is a bunch of sheep ready to be told what they can and cannot do without putting the time, energy, effort, and research into doing what they need to do to make themselves educated and then speak on, well, that may be wise. No, that may be not so wise. Well, I think you could do it in different circumstances. There's nuance to everything. So when people say you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes because he'll kill you, somebody said we can't go to the moon. We can't go to the moon. We'll evaporate. You'll die. It's not possible. People said you'll never fly. People said they'll never build the railroads. People said a lot of different things, bro. But it's done. Patrick Mahomes is good. Tom Brady got 9 rings. So yeah, he's good. He's one of the best I've ever seen. But this notion that we about to just come out here and just keep handing all these, see, you lose. Some people lose before they get on the field. Some people already done. As a person who played as a competitor, I can look in my teammates' eyes and see whether or not he's ready to play or not. I look at coach's eyes and see whether or not he got a game plan ready to go. Because you know what? Andy Reid is not scared. He banks on you being conservative. He purposely calls his plays so you are scared, so you are apprehensive, and you play right into his hands. You got to be able to look down the barrel of the gun and continue to keep moving. It is what it is. So this narrative that you can't blitz him is ridiculous. I'm going to sit there and let him walk up and down the field because I'm scared. If you scared, get in a new profession. And did I say blitz every single time? No, I didn't say blitz every single time. No, I didn't. I said you have to blitz in certain downs in certain circumstances to get him off his spot. There are also other things that you can do. We'll talk about that later. So let's get to zone principles. There's 2 main types of zone principles that you can run in the NFL. Anywhere, Pop Warner, college, high school, NFL.
All right, so listen, let's do this coverage-wise. So just simple math now. Yeah. Okay, let's just do some simple math. All right, so there's the football field. It's 53 1/3 yards wide, right? And we know it's 100 yards long. If we could take 9 coverage guys and put them back there in coverage, we could take away the deep quarters of the field. That would only be, Baldy, you did the math, right?
Yeah, 13 yards.
Yeah, about 13 yards of field. You could stand in the middle of 13 yards.
Yeah.
And if the ball has got to travel 30 yards downfield, Jaws, we can cover that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That would take care of all the deep throws. If you could take 5 guys and put them in these underneath 1/5 area that we call 2 flats or 2 curls and 2 hooks, we'd be okay. Problem is, we'd only have 2 guys to rush. Okay, so what happens? Let's say we want to rush 3 people. We got to take 1 guy out of here. All right, now this deep area has to get split into thirds. All right, it becomes a little more challenging.
Yep.
3 deep, 4 under. So you got 3 deep guys covering the deep thirds, 4 under.
So now we've got to cover somehow with 7 guys. And conceptually, there's really 2 of them. You can play 3 deep, 4 under zone.
Yep.
Or we play 2 deep, 5 under. All right, what are the reasons for the 2 different ones? I mean, you could stick in one and try to master it, but it's not too long before you figure out that underneath, if you've got to cover 5 zones and you only have 4 bodies to do it, it gets a little bit tougher.
Your curl, your hook, and your flat. 4 quadrants. You split the field in quadrants. The second thing you can do, you can load up on the under. 5 under, 2 deep. When you do that, your safeties have more work. You see a lot of cover 2s. You see, those voids like that are a little bit bigger when you're doing that, the 2 deep, 5 under.
So what typically happens in a game is defensive coaches change up if they're going to stay in zone between 2 deep and 3 deep. You got teams it's 2nd and 5, and it's going to be a short throw. Maybe you live in this world a little bit because you got 5 underneath people, right? If we want to take care of them throwing things deep, we don't want a deep ball in the middle post. We get into 3 deep and stick somebody here. Every coverage has a weakness. Every coverage has a strength.
Those are the 2 principles you're going to do. The problem with zone coverage is you can't cover the whole field. It is what it is. You can't cover the whole field. There's always a hole somewhere, right? You're asking people to cover curl to flat.
Where are the weaknesses in that, okay? The weaknesses to me are out here in the flat, okay, because you're going to have a curl. We'll talk in terms of somebody playing the curl flat or playing the hook curl. And all that means is that if I'm a defender and I have the hook curl, I've got to work through the hook and then out to the curl based on the routes. If I'm a curl flat defender, I work through the curl and then to the flat.
So you're always going to be checking something first and then going to something. So if you're asking your linebacker to check the curl and then move to the flats, if you got a great quarterback who can diagnose and know that you're in cover 2, cover 3, or zone principle, he knows that the linebacker, just say Anthony Walker, has a curl to flat technique. A curl to flat technique means he has to first check the curl, which is I check Travis Kelce at 4 to 7. If I check that and I feel and I'm passing him off to somebody else, then I check the flat. Well, guess what? If you Patrick Mahomes and you already read, diagnosed, and understand where you're going with the ball pre-snap, the flat is already open.
Flat. Well, if I'm telling these 2 guys to work through the curl and then get to the flat, that must mean that flat's open early, right? So
he catches the ball, he hits him on time. Running back is there, catching the ball for a first down.
Right, so to me, the weakness in cover 3 is out here in the
speed
flat.
outs. You want to be a good cover 3 team, you need good corners.
I think
it goes
so.
without saying.
Look, if you play off all the time, and these people are getting 5 out all of the time, it's going to be really hard for those 4 guys to cover those 5 zones. They just kind of trickle on down the field. So your corners at some point have got to be up there and make plays for you. Yeah.
That's the problem with zone. There's always a void. There's always a place. There's always a different place where the ball can be hit, maneuvered. It is just what it is. You're going to give up some stuff. You could play 3 deep, but guess what? You only got 4 dudes under, right? Now, here's the thing you can do. That's assuming that you guys want to rush 4. You can rush 3. Now, my thought process is, because this is just how I think about it, I'm going to give you guys some nuggets so you guys can understand where I'm going with this. I would have already been running a 3-man line. Have you not seen the Los Angeles Rams?
The evolution of the passing game has been the primary difference this past decade, and in 2020, offenses reached their historic apex with a record-breaking year. Teams across the NFL produced the most points per game, yards per game, passing touchdowns per game, and yards per pass. And defenses, especially because of no offseason, were ripped apart every single week. However, not every defense suffered. In fact, the Rams' defense actually improved. In Brandon Staley's first year as a defensive coordinator, he installed a scheme designed to counter the modern offense's newest evolutions. And in a year where defenses were hemorrhaging points, the Rams became the best defense in the league. They allowed just 4.5 yards per play, which was the lowest in the NFL, the fewest passing yards, just 17 passing touchdowns, the lowest by a lot, and they were one of the best run defenses in football. It wasn't like the Rams drafted new, dominant talent or poured a boatload of money into free agency, but it was Staley's vision for a new style on that side of the ball, a style that could very well be the next step in the evolution of defense.
Have you not been up on the 2-gap scheme?
Two high safety looks like this one are essentially daring the offense to run the ball, and the Rams played super light fronts with super light boxes even on first downs. This looks like a front you'd see on third down, but it's 1st and 10 in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, and the Rams have their 2 high safeties to defend the pass, just 3 down linemen, and just 5 guys in the box. The Giants have 5 blockers, so if they can block everybody, Devontae Freeman can just find daylight and theoretically keep running forever. Plus, if each guy in the box 1 gaps, which means they're filling just 1 gap, this B gap, for example, would be wide open, which is a death wish for any defense. But the Rams have several answers for this dilemma. First, they heavily involve their safeties in the run game to fill that extra gap, even though they're coming from depth. And second, they have one or multiple of their defensive linemen 2 gap, which means instead of shooting upfield into just one, they'll strike the offensive lineman head on and try and control both gaps to either side. These 3-down defensive fronts are one of the calling cards of Staley's defensive scheme, but they're not like the typical 3-4 fronts that have been in the NFL forever. They heavily borrow from the college game instead. Staley uses the tight front, which is barely seen in the NFL, but is quite common in college. Instead of spreading the 3 defensive linemen out and letting linebackers fill the inside gaps, the D-line condenses inside to force runs out to the perimeter. Notice how Michael Brockers and Aaron Donald are lined up in the B gaps in what are called 4-eye techniques, which means they're on the inside shoulder of the tackles. And the nose tackle Joseph Day is lined up directly over the center. With the linebacker Micah Kiser, we have both A gaps and B gaps filled, which forces the run outside where the faster defenders are waiting. You can see Joseph Day and Donald 2-gapping, and the safety Taylor Rapp flying down a little late to help out. One of the reasons this style is so popular in college is its ability to shut down the RPO run-pass option. And
do you people not know about the 2-gap scheme? When you put 3 down linemen head up on a tackle, and they 2-gap this thing.
Although the Cyclones depth chart still suggests that they base out of a 4-3, in reality they play most of the game in their own unique version of the 3-3 stack. So here we see that they've got 3 defensive linemen at the first level, and then 3 linebackers stacked behind them. This 3-3 is obviously a base nickel look with just those 6 box defenders. Like a lot of 3-3 teams though, instead of playing with the classic nickelback walked out toward any extra receiving threats, the extra defensive back in this look will be this robber safety right here, who Iowa State calls the star. That player is really a hybrid safety middle linebacker position, and he'll play most of the game from this position in the intermediate hole behind the linebackers and in between the other 2 safeties. From this position, he can fulfill a couple of different functions. In the passing game, this will put him in a good spot to rob any crossing routes that attack over the middle of the field. In the run game, the defensive line and linebackers should be able to protect that guy from any blockers in the box, freeing him up to pursue to the edge against outside runs, as we're seeing right here. Where Haycock's defense...
It entices people to think you can run the football, but no. You're 2-gapping it.
Where Haycock's defense really stands out, though, even in comparison to other 3-3 defenses, is in its innovations against the spread, and specifically in its use of 8-man coverages and hyperlight boxes. For example, on this play, Oklahoma State's got a 1st and 10 in the red zone. Check out how Iowa State's approaching them in this case. They seem to be showing just a 4-man box with both of their outside linebackers walked out to combat the 4-wide spread formation that the Cowboys are showing. When we look at this, we might ask, how can they possibly defend the run in this defense? The key here is that even though there are only 4 guys in the box, those 4 guys aren't responsible for defending the entire run game. They're just responsible for stopping up the middle and spilling the ball to the outside, where they've got those outside linebackers and that middle safety in position to add in as extra defenders against the run.
It really muddies everything up in the middle of the field, and it gives you the illusion that you can run, but you can't because everything is muddied up because your tackles are getting either blocked or knocked into other guys because the defensive ends are playing 2-gap.
The run. To see how this works, let's start from the middle of the formation and work our way out. In the very middle of the formation, we're going to see the nose tackle and the middle linebacker pitchforking off of the center to cover up the gaps to either side of him. The middle linebacker is going to line up directly behind the nose tackle, and he's going to read what happens to him after the snap. After the snap, Oklahoma State's offensive line all steps to the left, and the nose tackle falls to the backside to end up in the gap to the right of center. The middle linebacker is reading this, and so when the nose tackle ends up to the center's right, he's going to attack downhill to his left. In this way, the nose tackle and the middle linebacker clog up the inside gaps to either side of the center. If we watch this play one more time, we can also see that the defensive ends aren't playing the kind of contain technique that you might expect from them. In fact, nobody in the front is particularly interested in setting the edge. Instead, those defensive ends are playing hard into the offensive tackles, and they're either trying to push those blockers down inside to further compress those inside running lanes, or they're trying to cross the face of those blockers to fall inside themselves. When those 4 defenders execute these techniques successfully, it creates a big mass of humanity in the middle of the formation, and the goal here is to force this ball to bounce outside, where those outside linebackers are walked out to provide the real edge defense in this front. When the ball does bounce, it comes straight to this outside linebacker who'd started the play walked out of the box, but is now in perfect position to fall in to tackle this outside run. That guy's there to take this play on from the outside in, and meanwhile that star safety, playing from his position in the intermediate hole, is free to pursue this play from the inside out. Finally, on the backside, Iowa State's second walked-out linebacker is there to defend something like a quarterback keeper on the zone read or anything similar. When we think about this defense not just as the 4 guys in the box, but in terms of all of the guys who are a part of the run fit, then we see that Iowa State's actually playing with 7 guys in run defense, and they're going up against just 5 offensive linemen for Oklahoma State.
I would have already moved to the 3-man defensive front. And then guess what? If you're going to play zone then, you got one more defender that you can either put in the back third or underneath.
Of course, the real motivation behind these hyperlight boxes is all about the passing game, and on this play, we'll get a good look at one of Iowa State's common coverage looks. On this play, Oklahoma's brought an H back into the box, and so the Cyclones are playing with a whopping 5 box defenders to account for that extra threat in the run game, but the idea is largely the same as what we saw in the last play. The reason that Haycock wants to play a 3-3 and walk his outside linebackers out to wherever there are extra receiving threats is so that he can use 8-man coverages to defend air raid-style passing games. After the snap here, we see Iowa State drop into an 8-man Tampa 2 type of coverage, which means that these 2 outside safeties are going to bail out to play deep halves, and the star safety is going to drop to defend the intermediate hole in between them. Because this is an 8-man coverage, Iowa State will still be able to use this 3-deep safety structure while also flooding the underneath zones with 5 defenders. Here we see that the cornerbacks, because they have that deep safety help over the top to each side of the field, are going to be able to contest the outside receivers on anything short. To the inside, the outside linebackers are dropping to any slot receiving threats to defend quick inside stuff or to pick up crossers, and over the middle of the field, the middle linebackers sitting directly over the ball to take any kind of running back check down, so there just aren't going to be a lot of holes here. On this play, Oklahoma's trying to test this coverage structure by going deep, but in just a second we'll see that because this star safety is sitting in the intermediate middle of the field, the quarterback's going to have to put some air under this ball and throw it well down the field. By the time the ball finally does come down, all 3 of those safeties have been able to converge on the throw, and there really aren't that many other places that the quarterback could have put it to try and throw his guy more open.
I'm just saying, I don't do this every day. But Iowa State does it in college. They made it famous in college. It's tremendously hard to run against. But the Browns use 4 defensive linemen. Let's continue with that. So now that you know what the zone concepts are and you know what kind of the basics are, let me tell you why I'm also disappointed in the fact that you run zone coverage and you don't do anything other than that. There's way more things you can do to cause pressure besides blitzing. All I heard is, well, you can't do this about Mahomes. Well, you can't do this. Well, you shouldn't do that. Patrick Mahomes is Jesus in cleats. Patrick Mahomes, he parts the Red Sea. They got Travis Kelce. Let me ask you a question. If you don't want to blitz, what else did you try? Let me give you 5 quick things you can do to cause pressure, confusion, timing issues. Did you run any sort of spy technique? Did any defensive lineman punch, drop off into a soft zone coverage over the middle where Travis Kelce is at? In some of them quick plays. You know he's going over the middle in the soft zone trying to find a void. Did you have any defensive linemen punch, get back into that zone to confuse him? Oh, you didn't? Okay. Just checking. 2, did you have any sort of upfront twist games?
On the defensive side of the ball, Dan Quinn and the Falcons called stunt after stunt, stretching the thin fabric holding Seattle's inexperienced line together. By my count, the Falcons ran 20 stunts out of the offense's 39 called passing plays. This aggression yielded results as Wilson was pressured 13 of these called plays. When the Falcons did not run a stunt and only used their base 4-man pass rush, they still were able to pressure Wilson 7 of their 20 plays. On one of the
text, twist, did you have any in exchanging any games up front?
On one of the Falcons' more exotic packages, they run a 3-man stunt wrapping around the entire offensive line. 44 and 93 attempt to penetrate their respective B gaps, while 97 loops from the strong side 2 tech around the left tackle. Wilson steps into the pocket and avoids the pressure, keeping his eyes down the field. None of the Seahawks receivers are open, so he tries to buy more time for them scrambling between the tackles. Seeing the running back releasing to the middle of the field, Wilson forces the pass down the field while getting hit by Keanu Neal, allowing it to be intercepted.
Any sort of games in your defensive front?
The majority of the Falcons stunts were either based on an end tackle stunt or a tackle end stunt. For example, in their 3rd sack of the game, they run dual tackle end stunts with their defensive line. Both 77 and 95 penetrate, while 50 and 93 loop attacking the A gaps surrounding the center. From a schematic standpoint, the advantage you are trying to create with the dual tackle and stunt is a 2-on-2 matchup. What I mean by that is that the side the center does not have help is weaker since there's one less blocker. This is exactly what happens here as 50 penetrates. Fortunately for the Seahawks, Wilson is elusive so he escapes the first tackle. But then unfortunately for the Seahawks, he still gets sacked from behind as none of his receivers gain any separation. The tackle and stunt is one of your best pass rushing stunts. The opposite is true for the end tackle stunt, which is one of your best run defending stunts. This is true because the defensive tackle can read the play while looping, allowing him to maintain his gap responsibility. To illustrate the difference between the two from a pass rushing standpoint, watch this play at the start of the 4th quarter. The end number 50 attempts to penetrate the B gap, while 95 loops around the left tackle. This forces Wilson out of the pocket, where he throws a high fastball to Tanner McAvoy up the sideline. The ball ricochets off his hands for an incompletion. Forcing Wilson to his left, or his unnatural throwing direction, was definitely...
You just lined up and rushed regular? Okay, that's 2. Did you have any defensive ends? Drop into coverage and bring a linebacker opposite, overloading one side of the front. In principle, you're still rushing 4, but you're bringing a variation that's a different look. You drop Clowney, you bring Anthony Walker off the opposite edge where Myles Garrett is at.
In pass rush, when the team is not in their typical over or sometimes under alignments, they use a NASCAR package. What this means is that they'll bring on 3 or 4 defensive ends onto the field at once. They'll remove their interior defensive linemen, and then will blitz, run stunts, and will try to use confusion to penetrate the offensive line. Versus the Cowboys in Week 14, the Giants uses Fire Zone Blitz. For those that don't know, the Fire Zone Blitz is a disguised pressure where they have a disciplined zone coverage rotation to show quarterback an open receiver and then quickly rotate towards that receiver to take away the play. While an opening may appear, the general idea is to slow down the quarterback from recognizing it in order to land your pass rush. That's what happens here as Colin blitzes between the right tackle and the right guard, landing hit on the quarterback. As you can see in the all-22 angle, 2 defenders near the line of scrimmage jump into zones surrounding the slot receiver. This forces the quarterback to make his way to his backside read before the pass rush arrives. This obviously doesn't happen, and the Giants force an incompletion on third down.
Overloading one side, confusing the rookie tackle, and giving Patrick Mahomes another look. He thinks the pressure is there. He thinks somebody else is there. Oops, sorry, not so much. That's 3 right there. Did you move everybody up to the line of scrimmage and blitz bluff? Do you have multiple people up at the line of scrimmage and blitz bluff?
On the first third down against the Cardinals, the Dolphins are defending only 3 yards, so they bring 7 in the box, all crowding the line. The running back motions out, and with Bobby McCain following him, it reveals what appears to be a pretty clear cover 0. Now I want you to take a moment and try to guess who's rushing, who's going into coverage, and if it's a man or a zone defense. Kyler thinks he's going to have an easy completion to Kirk on the quick slant. However, at the snap, Brandon Jones and Brian Cole drop to play as part of a cover 4. From the end zone view, you can see how this disguise helps create the pressure. With Miami showing more rushers than they can block, they have to leave it one man unblocked, meaning Kyler must throw to his hot read, the slant route. Jones and Cole both engage on the snap before dropping into coverage, forcing the line to pinch and allowing Shaq Lawson to come in unblocked. Lawson's pressure forces Kyler to roll right, and Miami again shows they are well coached, reading the eyes of the quarterback and rolling their underneath zones to the slant.
Sometimes the linebackers blitz and the defensive linemen shift and maybe drop back in coverage. Did you? I'm just asking. Did you spy a Myles Garrett on Patrick Mahomes? So we're going to bring JOK off the outside, not straight up the middle from 9 yards where you can see him at depth, because that's what he was doing. Well, G. Bush, he was blitzing, he was getting picked up. You think Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, don't see a linebacker running from 14 yards of depth? Y'all cats is crazy, man. I'm just educating right now. There's more than one way to get pressure. But since y'all cats don't do this for a living, because y'all don't do this for a living, you think blitzing. There's more. Let me ask you a question. Tyreek Hill is fast as heck. Why the hell we ain't jamming him at the line of scrimmage? 5'5", 106. You gave him a free release all game. But G. Bush, we have to back up 98 yards because he's fast. There's a give and take in everything. If you fast, you small. You're going to have to think about something. So you meaning to tell me you can't get hands on him either? Nah. A guy that small is going to have to get off press coverage. That also messes up timing. I didn't say I was blitzing the house. I said mess up timing, mess up rhythm, and force errant throws. I need more people to come up with other ideas and understand the game at a different level and not a surface level and talk. You can't talk the game like that, because there's 96 other things that Joe Woods could be doing to make his defense better. He's not. I watched these guys stand in the same position. Have you watched the LA Rams play football? Aaron Donald is all over that line of scrimmage. Some days he's playing nose. Some snaps he's playing 3 technique. Some days he's head up on the tackle. Some days he's 4-eye on the tackle. He's everywhere. Everybody gets that work. You can't prepare for that. They put their player everywhere. Unpredictable. Browns line Myles Garrett up over the other end and say rush every single play. If I'm lying, put it in the comment section. What point have I lied yet? There's all kind of other things that we could be doing and talking about and getting to it. This is a chess game, not checkers. And every single time we play Andy Reid, we turn into to checker players. Guys talking about what you can't do. And for the fan base, this must be what it sounded like when Elway was kicking our tail. And by the way, they was running zone 2. Bend but don't break. You can't do anything with Elway. He's just, he's a magician. He's one of the greatest of all time. And then he went right over there into the Super Bowl and got the doors blown off of him against the San Francisco 49ers. They told him, hey, come out here and run that stuff if you want to. Put $450 on you doing all that corny stuff. We got something for you. We got a dude back there called Ronnie Lott. We're not going to play with you out here like that. You want to be running around doing all. Tampa Bay Buccaneers already showed you. You see what Dak Prescott did to the Buccaneers? He threw for 400. Don't act like the Buccaneers is the 85 Bears. The problem is a lot of people happy to be here. I critique the game. There's a lot of people out here that want to say, oh, knee-jerk reaction, just stay calm. Listen, man, when you in them locker rooms and when you playing the game and when you playing sports, there's no such thing as knee-jerk reaction type joints when you watching film. Every single day you play football, it's a knee-jerk reaction. They cuss you out every single day if you ain't in the right gap, if you ain't doing the right stuff, if you ain't getting off blocks, if you miss tackles. It's knee-jerk every single day. But people that ain't been in that don't understand that. And I get it. Maybe you might not be on that type of time. But there's one thing you cannot do. Your take is off on, no, it's not. Notice I didn't say nothing about blitzing. What about text and twist? What about pre-snap alignment? What about jamming at the line of scrimmage on certain plays? Not every play, but certain plays, Tyreek Hill gonna get that situation.
Throughout the 2018 season, Tyreek Hill was one of the best deep threat receivers in the NFL. His speed and ability to create separation at the top of his routes has been a hallmark of the Chiefs' offense. It seemed like in every game you turned on, you saw Patrick Mahomes step back and pop one deep to a wide open Hill. However, in his game against the Patriots in the AFC Championship, he only caught one pass and was largely held in check. For this video, I wanted to see how exactly the Patriots did this. Was it scheme related? Was it a great defensive performance by a certain player? Or was it something else that contributed to him having one of the worst games of the season?
What about bracket coverage with a safety and a linebacker over top when you play man-to-man coverage? What about bracket coverage when you talk about Tyreek Hill, when you do decide to play man-to-man?
In order to combat the Chiefs' dangerous passing game, the Patriots primarily played man coverage. They played man on 81% of Hill snaps. Out of those plays, they designed a high-low bracket coverage in order to remove him from the game. They did this on 14 plays according to my tracking. This purposeful design to take a safety out of his normal deep responsibility basically told the Chiefs that the Patriots didn't care about the other receivers. As long as Hill didn't make an impact, Belichick wagered that the offense wouldn't be able to move the ball successfully through the air.
What about taking one of them away? You let one of them get 200 yards? See, this is a thought process. How are you a defensive coordinator when you let both of them get off? You can't let both of them get off. Any coordinator can get, you can roll anybody. I'll say, listen, you can let Tyreek Hill get his money off, but Kelsey's done. Just take that guy and that guy and put him on and he's done.
Looking at this game from a coverage standpoint, I saw 14 times when the Patriots purposely sent a bracket coverage in Hill's direction. I didn't include any of the zone coverage looks or Hill's routes crossed multiple zones, so this 14 is purely when the defense was playing man coverage. On these 14 plays, the Chiefs created 4 plays of greater than 20 yards. This totaled 144 Mahomes passing yards, which is almost exactly half of his total. We discussed a couple of these plays earlier on, but needless to say, double covering Hill was a high-risk, high-reward decision that paid off for the majority of this game. Yes, they allowed some big plays, but the Patriots also sacked Mahomes 3 times as well using this coverage. Those 3 sacks ended drives simply because the Chiefs receivers couldn't separate against the Patriots' aggressive man defense. Speaking of pressure, I was surprised and impressed by how much the defense created in this game. The Chiefs have a very good offensive line, however, they struggled to pick up the Patriots' stunts in games. Kyle Van Noy collected 2 sacks, while other defenders made a couple of key plays here and there. This kept Mahomes off balance, and they contained him in the pocket, which helped limit some of the bigger opportunities outside.
You cannot play the game of football defensively, passively. And when you sit there to play the game to elongate touchdown, the goal is not to give up no touchdown. That's the mentality you got to have every time you step on that field. Nobody gets points. I'm not here to rub nobody's shoulders. That's why I'm here. I rub nobody's shoulders. I don't get invited to cookouts. I don't get invited to corporate parties. I don't get invited to come over here and golf with me. I don't get invited to charity dinners. I don't give a damn about none of that. All I do is watch football, watch tape, and I hang out with regular everyday people. At the end of the day, that's what I do. Just because it's the first game against a good team, not to point out what went wrong in that game, you're a fool. I don't care. I'm going to point it out. I did the same thing with Baker Mayfield. If I could say Baker Mayfield was playing terrible last year, I could say that Joe Woods had a terrible game playing 2 years in a row. The myth of continuity permeates tomfoolery. I'm sure the dinosaurs thought continuity was a thing till that asteroid hit. Is the season over? No. If you really want to go where you want to go, you can't have a defensive coordinator that's scared and got so much honor and respect and homage and go do your job, man. Bruce Arians don't give a damn about Andy Reid. And it's about time we get people on our staff that don't give a damn about him either. And until we start doing that, we're not going nowhere. Y'all got to understand, they are in our division. They are in our way. They are where we want to be at. Do you understand that Patrick Mahomes? Do you understand that Patrick Mahomes is younger than Baker Mayfield? If you want to lose to this dude every single year, if you want to make this dude Michael Jordan, keep playing zone defense and putting Craig Elo on him. At the end of the day, the Clippers don't lie. Go to these other dudes if you want them to make you feel good about taking L's. It ain't never going to happen here. It's a barbershop. Peace.